The new expansion for Hearts of Iron 4 is called Trial of Allegiance, and it is a South American country pack. What is a country pack? It's basically like Battle of the Bosporus expansion, which featured Greece, Turkey, and Bulgaria with their own dedicated focus trees, but less about the features and more about just those dedicated focus trees. So a slightly smaller expansion, less about features, more about focus trees. And that's it. Trial of Allegiance will focus Brazil, Argentina, and Chile. What else do we know so far? This will include additional content for old and new tags as well, which just basically means other countries in South America will have events and things tied around those three new focus trees. This dev diary will focus mainly on the Brazilian historical path, but get this is not the only DLC for this year for Hearts of Iron 4. There's going to be a major expansion, a big one is described, that will be released later this year. So why not two? Before we cover the Brazil focus tree, I just want to speculate on the release date of this expansion. So let's calculate this. So every focus tree will have an alt history path as well as a regular path, right? So an alt history for Brazil will be the first, potentially, but it said it would be Argentina for the next one. But let's just bake that in. So the first will be Brazil's alt history, historical Argentina, alt history Argentina, Chile, historical, alt history Chile. Then the next week could be achievements. Then 8 could be art, potentially. So it's looking to me like this is a March expansion. And I'm going to take a guess. The third week in March is when this is coming out. I've just completely fudged those numbers, by the way. I have no idea. I'm just basically reverse engineering for previous expansions based on how dev diaries are released. And I think we're about 2 months away from this expansion. Maybe a little bit less. Now, let's get to the meat. Brazil. Focus path. Well, here it is. So I'm going to take a guess. These areas highlighted are all alt history paths. So we have communism here. We have fascism here. This is the historical path we're going to cover today. There's a little bit of alt history flavor in here. This surprisingly is not covered. So this is like another alt historical path. By the way, I love alt historical paths. I think the idea of just putting a little bit of a spin of an alternative history is really fun without going outrageous like a communist revolution or something, you know? And then we have like the industrial focuses on the top right, as we can see the coffee crisis and more industry related things. It is a big one. Just be aware though, a lot of these won't apply because of the different options you have to choose. So all of these will disappear on you selecting this one. I would take a guess that half of these are going to be 35-day focuses. Hey, listen, I'm not a big fan of 35-day focuses, but the community screams, yells, it wants 35 days. So 35 days is what you shall receive. In 1935, there was an attempted revolution by the Communist Party. So there's constant this idea, the military, the fascists, and the Democrats are trying to push away this idea of a potential revolution that could be resurged in the country. Brazil's only recently become a republic, and it's very shaky and unstable. With the communist influences, it's become a little bit more difficult to maintain a stable democracy. So it's going to be one of those classic, well, the nation's falling apart. Are you going to pick it all up and actually have a proper nation? So some interesting negative modifiers. This one's original. Legacy of the naval race. So you lose a massive amount of dock output. So basically making ships is non-existent. And making new dock yards is basically non-existent as well. I would love to see this flipped on its head, which is 40% construction speed and plus 15% dock yard output. If you basically could say, we can test the naval race in the exact opposite direction. That'd be kind of cool. Separatist sentiments, we see that Yugoslavia, undiversified economy, that's a massive 20%, ouch, eye-watering. Weak government, I mean, this is a classic, losing political power and stability, and also a state of emergency, giving a little bit more communism. The communists were defeated, but they left a lingering smell. And this is our president, the authoritarian populist, giving political power. So you lose some political power, then you gain some political power back. I always think that's an accusing mechanic in the game. When you're losing 10% to a different national focus, but then another one gives you 10% and it just balances the books. What's the point of the 10% to begin with? I don't know, that's confusing for me. However, he is a big supporter of the status quo. So I think the idea is you become democracy at the very start of the game, but then as the game progresses, if you keep this guy, it becomes more of a non-aligned authoritarian regime. But it denies the communists from taking control, so pick your poison. And this is the historical branch. Interesting. Uruguay ultimatum. Interesting. And there's something here with a Polish flag on it. Interesting. Look at this. Support the sugar barons or father of the poor. It looks like, do you want manpower or do you potentially want industry? I'm taking a guess. Just a thought that, isn't it? Wedged at the bottom of South America, you've got Brazil, Argentina, Chile. But then what about Uruguay? Poor Uruguay. He has been given the Belgium treatment. F Belgium in the comments, boys. This is the military path as well, zoomed in. Once again, it's going to be a matter of, do you want to double down on the authoritarianism and abandon democracy, or do you want to integrate more democracy but the risk of communism potentially creeping in? And that's kind of the historical path for Brazil. And here you could declare a state of emergency, which means democracy and communism is well and truly pushed and squeezed. So basically solidifying the authoritarian regime. But it gives you some political control back, which eventually you're going to need if you're going to either declare war or rebuild your government. So here you made a plan to build your government and rebuild it. But if you don't do that by completing these two focuses, this will result in a coup. I wonder if it's advantageous to do a coup if you don't want to go in this specific direction. So this will fix your weak government. It's basically modeling your country on a Polish constitution. So it fixes your weak government and then gives you a massive boost of non-aligned. So it does look like the historical path does push non-aligned in your face. So it is this focus. So it's pretty quick. You can get rid of your weak government. Usually the smart thing to do in Hoi is to fix your political power problems, this weak government, then fix your industry, either with consumer goods or building more cities, and then you can work on kind of everything else like stability and war support. Political power is important early game because you can get your advisors, which can fix some of your problems, and then top that off, you want your industry to be strong because you need a backlog of weapons and gear. Another thing to note is they mention a separatist movement in the northeast of Brazil, refers to as bandits. So it looks like there's going to be releasable nations inside of Brazil, and your job is to kind of keep Brazil as intact as possible. But you can balkanize if you want to. Embrace corporatism, a bit of flirting with fascism down the historical path. It kind of makes sense in a way. Anything that is seen as leftist, communist is rejected as you trying to solidify the authoritarian regime to maintain the balance. It has a bit of a Franco feel to it. Does anyone get that vibe? I'm getting it. Also here, 5% consumer goods. These are the old numbers. They should be like 10% or 15%. Because this 5% is very, very small. But maybe there's many different focuses that can chew away at that number. So this is the industrial branch. As you can see, the coffee crisis. Initially, you can start to fix that by fixing your undiversified economy. It feels strange to me that the very start of the game, you're giving lots of hurdles you have to overcome. Which is kind of cool. That feeling of progression feels really good. The Netherlands, you experience it, and when you fix your nation, it feels really good. Norway too. The only issue is that you naturally have to select focuses anyway, so you're going to naturally fix these problems issues anyway. It'd kind of be kind of cool if there was kind of a little bit of a mini game in the decisions that would fix these issues over time, either by spending political power. It just feels like we're going to be selecting these focuses anyway, so we're going to fix our economy anyway. It feels like it's a linear path regardless. Alternatively, like for as an example, fixing the coffee crisis doesn't fix it. It basically gives you an option to put money, civilian factories, by decision into something, and that will fix this problem over time. So you have the option basically to fix it a lot quicker. I suppose in this instance, it railroads you and fixes you 35 days. So you have to follow the focuses one by one by one, and you can't necessarily rush them. I love it when I've got the option to rush focuses or rush fixing my country. I don't know, that's kind of fun for me. Put everything in one basket. That's kind of fun, right? As you can see, as you progress further down here, this right side, you're fixing the undiversified economy. You're not necessarily getting bonuses, you're just chewing away at the penalties you've already experienced. So we have a neglected state here, and it will continue being neglected with that 40% penalty, because why would you ever build there? So neglected, and then continuously neglected. It'd be kind of cool if you could just fix this quicker by building infrastructure in it. Wouldn't that be kind of cool? So the minute you put one infrastructure in it, this basically drifts away, but it looks like this has to be fixed by necessary focuses. I wouldn't necessarily fix this really quickly. I'd find a way of building tall in the states where I can build quickly. But looks, if you go for this focus here, it gives you resources, and it also gives you building slots in all these states. Oh, wow. So loads of states are suffering from this penalty. I wonder if it's able to build as Brazil, but kind of ignore the undeveloped regions. So just build tall in all the good regions. Maybe. Just feel like they're really penalizing Brazil. But I'll be fair, though. Brazil does get really OP late game. So they're integrating the Mayos here. +3 sizes. +3 is massive. I wonder if you could develop this to begin with. Oh, no, you can't. So what I was thinking is maybe you could develop this organization and then gain the +3, and then you kind of gain more XP from it, but it looks like it only becomes available when you select this focus. Okay. Mayos aren't as interesting or as fun when you unlock them later on. I feel like the bonuses are very small, so I'd rather go for other focuses in future. 30 days, 70 days for this just feels a bit too much. Now, this one's pretty OP. So this gives you an incentive to develop the Amazonas because it gives you a massive amount of resources. 20 is amazing. Plus 20%, so that's 24. Plus the infrastructure. So we're gaining at least 30 rubber in the Amazonas from that. That is amazing. 20% max factories. That might not even be one building slot though, because it's a rural region of the jungles, isn't it? So technically wouldn't gain a great deal from that. And also more options for rubber as well. So the idea is that when rubber was being pushed and pulled by the requirements of war, the Brazilian rubber became more of an important resource, and it's the reason why you get to develop it. Be kind of cool if whenever you're at war, the resource amount goes up, so you're incentivized to join the war almost. That'd be kind of cool. So then you could have a push-pull mechanic. You could gain big civilian bonuses, domestic bonuses, by staying at peace, but penalizes your army. But then if you go to war, you could potentially gain bonuses from the trade from it. So you kind of push and pulled in two directions. Players have to make a strategic decision when is the best time to join the war. That'd be kind of cool. So you have the option here to do something a little bit ahistorical. This didn't happen until, I think, the 1950s, I believe. So establish a new capital. The new capital is Brasilia, and it's renamed from this date. And you gain victory points and a bunch of bonuses as well, and also a supply depot as well. That's kind of nice bit of flavor, I suppose. The bonuses don't really feel worth, but hey, I like that it exists. So this is the issue with the bandits, and the bandits causing a lot of problems. Once again, I'm so curious about this, like whether I can avoid this problem completely. I'm not sure, but regardless, you can do operations into the Amazonas to try and get rid of the bandits here, and you have a percentage chance of losing stability. Oh, I hate percentage chance in Hoi4. I actively avoid them because I just don't like the fact that you're flipping a coin to decide a decision. There's a 0% chance of nothing happening. Nice. Brazil's role in World War II is a focus with aligning with the United States to defer Axis powers and eventually declaring war on Germany in 1942. 42. Okay, so you don't declare too late, but a historical path for Brazil still is typically kind of relevant. And you can work with the United States to eventually form a Brazilian expeditionary force. The Cobras? Oh, it's like in the trailer. I always like to flirt with the ideas if you rush this quickly, whether there could be economic benefits from that. Hence the reason about joining the war to benefit you. That'd be a cool mechanic for the United States, that wouldn't it? To try and pull all the South American nations into World War II to help out, to have economic incentives. Oh, that'd be kind of sweet. If the United States agrees to the Accords, you gain a +50 opinion, which sadly in Hoi doesn't mean a great deal. I suppose it's kind of helpful for trade, I suppose. And it also gains Washington Accords, which gives war support, construction, and daily democracy. Okay, now this actually makes sense. It's a very small amount of democracy, though, but this is basically it. You become more aligned with America, ideologically, and, well, politically as well. So they expect a military commitment. And I wonder what the requirement is, what is considered a commitment. This is kind of like in, oh, what's a good example? Crusader Kings 2, where you could join a war, but you never actually participate in the war because you're just like, well, I've been called to action. I don't want to say no because of the penalties. The Cobra, giving 1,000 subsidies for weapons. Can't remember how this works now. I think this is about offering free guns through the market, but the other side still benefits, I believe. There's basically an allowance of weapons for free that you can buy from the market. This is kind of cool though. 4K guns is really worth. Classic tech sharing. And then the option to buy more stuff from the United States. Wow, we have a Brazilian Sherman and an interesting biplane there. The Brazilian Expeditionary Force went on to fight in Italy and played a crucial role in defeating the Axis forces there. It's up to you how you intend to deploy your forces to win the war. It might be an interesting strategy to try and build a really strong air force. Or you could just make like 240 with tanks, for instance, to try and make a big impact there. That's kind of cool. You play with the idea of it, won't you? I'm trying to think of the role of Brazil in most Hoi 4 multiplayer games. I think a lot of the time they usually make spam paratroopers, usually. The military branch. You may have noticed we focus on political and economic side of the focus tree so far. Don't worry, we have a separate military branch to finish off the tree. And it is unbelievably big. Okay, so this is the political, ideological stuff here. This is industry. And this one is the military branch. Right, okay, so the far right one is the military branch. And this is it. Wow, it's massive. Many nations were expanding on this DLC start with a fairly similar military capabilities and issues at the start of the game. We took the decision to create a core military branch that we utilized by all nations. Ah, okay. So this is similar to the Chinas, where they all have this same branch on the right-hand side. So this is all going to be shared through all the new major nations in South America, this military branch. Do you know what? I approve of this decision. Because a lot of the time, you'll invest so much time into making a military focus path, and they're all going to be very similar anyway, so what's the point? So they did mention that next week is going to be Argentina, probably the historical path. Then they'll look at Chile historical, then they'll do the alt history path and cover over all the others. As I mentioned before, they will cover all of them, but not in the order that I probably predicted. Well guys, I need you to tell me in the comments, are you excited? Is this something that you desperately wanted? Were you dying for a bit of Brazilian? Was that what you were into? Well, this is what you are going to be delivered. And this is the new expansion of Hoi 4, the Trial of Allegiance. This was developed, by the way, by a different team that they hired many months ago. I don't know how long ago. And hence the reason why they managed to turn over this expansion significantly quickly. If you're into this kind of content, hey, give me a like and a subscribe. Apart from that, boys, I'll see you guys next time. Click on this video.